70% of Dragonwilds is terrible. Want proof? Arbitrary. This game is truly in early access, but they charge $30 for it. F you. That being said, it's not all bad. If you're into base building, this game is literally your playground. This is probably the best base building I've ever seen in a game. And it just so happens I woke up positive, so let's go through the good stuff first. Progression. Multiple tiers of pieces and many pieces to use. Very good. Hold on. Hydration bar arbitrarily low. All of the crafting and refinement tables have incredible animations. The conversion rates I think match the game correctly, if that makes sense. There are enough types of resources and refinements to have a learning curve but not be overwhelming. This is well made. Each set of armor, weapons, and tools have multiple base tiers with corresponding resources to craft each. This is kind of simple but wasn't unfun to play through. In my own playthrough, I was able to craft the next tier of axe significantly earlier than the next pickaxe. This was awkward in ways but learnable and simply could have been a skill issue. There's a bunch of different color lights. I personally think they're a bit too bright and too focused, but beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. If decorations are your thing, there are millions of them. Seems like you get one that matches every single thing you unlock. Let's talk about the skills. You gain levels for each category as you engage in it. Every few levels you gain a skill that modifies something in that category. I think they did a good job with these. Some of the standout skills here for me were actual projection, allowing you to cut down trees much faster, splinter, harvest said trees much faster, rock explosion, farm resource nodes like this. Wind step is pretty cool. You can also enchant different weapons with different elements. This changes things like appearance and damage. I look forward to this being expanded upon in the future. Alright, some of the combat mechanics are good, pretty well telegraphed and all counterable. With this specific monster, I know that hitting it when it draws back its bow, it will always interrupt them. The next mechanic is staggering. This guy obviously will block all small attacks with the shield, so using this heavy attack here will stagger him. Then I can actually do damage to the enemy in a significant manner. There's also pieces of armor that add different effects. This set here has increased damage against staggered targets, which is perfect for this fight. Before we move on to the bad stuff, I want to say I really like the idea of having these different foods that help you advance through different zones. For example, this kebab gives poison resist, which helps in this area. There is also the wild pie, which reduces the amount of shock damage taken, which works really well when this lightning thing chases you around in this zone. There is also this food to stop the bleed effect, which some enemies apply around the map. The food buffs allowing you to access and survive these zones better is what keeps replenishing food out of the arbitrary list, which is not true for a lot of other things. Where to start? That is the question. How about, why does hydration exist? It feels like I have to drink water only to not be thirsty. Same thing with the restedness meter. What the f***? Every once in a while you just have to sleep so you don't have the huge downside. Decreased maximum stamina, lowered hydration and food caps, decreased stamina regen, and even death. But don't worry, you can fix it like this. So the upside for both of these is only no downside. No downside is not really an upside, so there is no upside, only downside. So why does the meter exist to begin with? Ridiculous. Furthermore, considering these animations, it feels like to me that these mechanics were added in very quickly just because they are survival mechanics. I'm sure they will be expanded upon, but I still paid $30 already. And by the way, side rant, when did the consumer start paying obscene amounts of money to test games that are so early in development? Are we stupid? I get live service games are more expensive to make, but at least fully develop the base game and flesh it out a little bit before you ship it for $30. Thanks. Combat. For me, the combat was not PvE, it was PvS. Player versus stamina. I fought the stamina bar for most of the game. Everything uses stamina, it uses it fast, and stamina cannot be increased. Don't get me wrong, there is skill here, but how it tends to play out is that everything seems harder than it actually is, and you get overwhelmed by not being able to block or run enough to get away. Where's my stamina, dude? Farming resources uses your stamina. I have to be honest here, I don't think that it should. I can kind of see the vision here, I do understand, I just don't agree with it. Farming resources is already a very mundane part of the progression loop, and this just makes it worse for no reason. What I mean by worse is the combination of running between nodes and hitting nodes always results in stamina depletion. Then you're just left standing around waiting for it to regen. Boring. However, I do want to know what everyone thinks about this, so if you have a sec, let me know your take in the comments. Also, like variety of armor pieces. This is a tough one because I know they will add way more of this stuff. But here's my issue. There's only so many ways this actually ends. If you have too many tiers of the same attributes on multiple sets of armor, then farming the next resource for the next tier becomes repetitive and boring. Another option is more variations in the attributes, but with too many tiers of that, the game just gets overcomplicated. Furthermore, if all of this gear is specific to only this map, which would then be a single region in the overall future world, then all of this can get out of control very quickly. Overcomplication and items that just don't make sense, this is a hard balance to strike. Good luck. Here's a top 3 list of random in-game features that if I never saw again, I wouldn't shed a tear over. In no particular order. Bags. These bags drop from monsters as their loot. When you open the bags, you get loot. If my math serves me right, you could in theory get rid of the bags, have the monsters drop the loot instead, and still get the same result. What I meant to say was, it is a chore for now, but I do think there is a critical element of this system that is simply not in the game yet. We'll see. Lightning strikes. I'm kinda on the fence about this one. I mostly see it as an arbitrary thing that is annoying right now, but environmental dangers can also be cool in my opinion. Undercooked? Maybe. It is also solvable with a food, so blah. Dragon bombs. These things happen way too often and are just annoying. They are fun the first 3 times and then it just gets in the way. It commonly blocks you from working on things in your base, crafting items, and farming stuff around the world, so it's kinda stupid. To be fair, they did nerf this, and I like the idea of the final boss showing itself before the actual encounter. The majority of this game is not RuneScape, and that is the biggest problem I have with it. This game has an identity crisis. There are RuneScape elements in it, the skills and the progression, all of it is bare bones, but it is in early access. The thing that it is missing the most, it is simply not an MMO. Why? If this game in its current state was an MMO, where you could run around the open world and see other people, their bases, all of those cool interactions, this game would be a knockout. I thought this game would have all of the OSRS progression and all of the survival and base building mechanics would replace the safe areas like the town where you smelt and all that stuff in OSRS. That would have been such a good game, I'm not gonna lie, I really feel like they missed a big opportunity with that. Essentially OSRS on UE5 with the base building progression replacing the towns. I played that game for thousands of hours. However, what we actually got was mundane parts of RuneScape and mostly survival progression and mechanics. That game I finished in 40 hours. Now I want to make it clear, I'm not an OSRS veteran by any means. I have always been an interested party, but I do have an unimaginable amount of hours in survival games. In my humble opinion, if this game focuses too much on the survival aspect of Dragonwilds, it will fade away like all of the rest who have tried and failed before it. You want an example? I can't think of one off the top of my head because